And a happy Friday to everyone out there. T-Sibs, Vibes, Dead Soul. We're with you here on LGPSN this week, and we AHLPSN this week, and we're getting ready to talk about a lot of things tonight. Buckle in for this one, folks. Plenty of stuff to talk about, and gentlemen, again, Dead Soul, Vibes joining me tonight. How are you guys doing today?
Just fucking dandy. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good, thanks. Had a little bit of a food coma, but
Food coma? What
Food coma.
what did you exactly eat?
oh, just some greasy spoon food. So
Oh, that
I
doesn't.
mean, you need a doctor? Like, food coma. That sounds pretty serious.
Did you at least drink something heavy with it to soak up all that grease? Because you have to. I mean, you have to have alcohol with it. Usually,
oh,
you have the greasy stuff to help with the alcohol at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're kind of doing
well,
it backwards, dude.
it is summertime, so I should be having some beers. I mean, the weather is kind of calling for that, so I think that might be in order for this evening, some point
I bought my
tonight.
first beer making kit today. I'm gonna start. I got too many guys at work who know how to do this, so I'm gonna start making my own beer. See how that goes.
Sounds like a fun hobby.
We'll see. We'll see how much fun it is to my wife. She has a problem with it. It won't be a hobby for too long. Okay, enough about what we're eating and drinking every day. Plenty of stuff to talk about. We talked a little bit last night, you and me, Vibes, touched on it a little bit about some of the things that we were going to talk about tonight, but we're going to get into it full bore. This is, of course, what you've been talking about from show number one, which is the end of week 3. And an important part, and again, why don't you explain to everybody why week 3 or the end of week 3 is a critical point in your mind?
Well, I mean, at this point, the season has officially started. I always say that the season doesn't start until week 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, you asked a good question, I think it was like a week or so ago, where is it the beginning of the week or the end of the week? And I mean, I guess that's, not exactly down to a science, but I can say without a doubt the season has officially started. Week 3 is kind of like your final, it's almost like the first week of the season, as I see it. The weeks leading up are kind of just like an extended preseason, and now week 3 is your first week, and now the season has officially started. So, I mean, now's a good time to check the standings and see where you are. And that's where you belong right now. Now, I mean, that could change and everything. Like, it's out of the gate. I feel like a lot of times you have some really bad teams that, just blast off to a great start. And then you have good teams that just kind of flounder around. But by now, you should know where you are.
And do you know where you are? Would be the question I have to ask.
I mean, I think I know where I am.
Okay.
As far as as far as the team is concerned, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Um, where I am right now, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I feel like that's kind of a philosophical question, and I'd have to go into depth, and I don't think anyone wants to hear that. So.
Where are we all in this universe?
Uh-oh. You know what? He may have drunk a little bit with that greasy food. He's getting
Yeah.
philosophical now.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, the standings out now, and you guys can look at that online, certainly on your own. But we are seeing some of the standout teams right away, and we can discuss a little bit about what we're seeing after 3 weeks. But I want to get to this first question early. I know you have it down on the list of questions to ask in the topic of standings, but I'm going to ask you it now. Is it too early to be considering standings at this point, or is how accurate, looking at it right now, is something like this to do at this point in the season after a third of it's over?
Well, kind of like I was saying, if you're asking me, I'm not sure if you're asking Dead Soul or myself, but I figure I'll just jump in here because, at the end of the day, the only person I care about listening to is me anyway. So, I mean, I think now is a good time to, like I was saying, to look around and see where you are in the standings,
Mm-hmm.
and this kind of dictates where you are right now. Again, like I was saying, it's not that that can't change. It's not that you can't turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're sitting at the bottom of the standings right now in week 3, currently at this point in time, you're not a good team. Can you turn it around? Absolutely. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and no one is calling for the curtains yet. So, you can definitely turn it around, but as of right now, at this current point in time, you are in trouble, and you need to get yourself out of trouble. If you're towards the top right now, you're doing the right thing at the moment, and my advice would be to keep going.
Well, if you want to get a little statistical, it's about 33% of the way into this season, and it's a pretty good amount of time. Like Vibes has said many, many times, the wise one once said that the third week is the week that you start to kind of see the separation of the teams, the men from the boys, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, yada, yada.
Right.
But it's true. I mean, if you look at the standings right now and you see some of the top teams and compare them to the bottom teams in each of their divisions, we're starting to see some pretty big gaps. And I mean, unless teams start to on the bottom start to really gallop their way through and make some pretty huge win streaks come their way, and hope that nothing like that happens with these top teams right now, which is clearly not really going to be the case. Uh, then I think it spells trouble for a lot of these teams. And it doesn't mean give up. It means you got some work to do, and maybe your GMs will make some trades, and it also comes down to you as a player playing a little better, maybe, or perhaps finding a hopefully your GM can find some better line mates for you guys or something. But this is the time where GMs and are going to start looking and trying to make the changes and adjustments that they think they might need. Because I mean, after this amount of time, you can really start to see where the holes are on each team and where you might need that work to be done. So I mean, this is there's still lots of time left for sure. There's tons of weeks to go here, but within this short span of time, I think if you're not kind of noticing the holes that you have now, then you might not ever, and you might just be SOL for the rest of the season.
Well, I tell you one thing I think I notice is that um, teams that are way behind. I don't know if I've ever seen it yet in the first 4 seasons where a team 20 points or so down at this point have come back and really made a run for it and gotten themselves into the playoffs. It may have happened. I don't remember exactly, but none of them have stuck out in my head. What you do see happen is we've seen teams that have jumped out tremendously early on and then fall. I mean, look, we saw issues with Chicago last year, not making it in on the last day. Cleveland just got in there and hung in, but then got knocked out pretty quickly. So I think we see teams fail over the next 6 weeks, but I don't know if we see too many teams who are far behind are able to catch up and get themselves in the playoffs and make a run for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting like fifth, sixth, even seventh in the division right now, I mean, sure you can get it together and sneak in. But I mean, that's all relative. That's relative in the sense of what division you're in and how far you are behind. If you're just right now sucking shit out of the toilet and just not doing anything right now, and you're however many points, 15, 16 points out of a playoff spot, and fiddling around with a couple wins throughout the entire season thus far, it's not looking good. But I mean, if you're within striking distance and just having a little bit of hitch in your giddy up at the outset here, then sure you can put it together, But it's it's tough. I mean, the teams at the top, unless they fall, are going to keep winning too, And the teams that are in a playoff spot right now are gonna, in theory, keep winning as well. So you have to make up some ground, and it's not easy.
Yeah, there's already some pretty big gaps, and they're only going to get bigger and bigger as we go along. So
Yeah, I just don't see where teams really make up that much of a difference this late in the game and are able uh, to make a real run for it and have come back and done that. We certainly have seen teams fall, but not the other way. So for the topic of the quote-unquote cream rising to the top at this point, we'll just take a quick look here as we're showing the audience the standings, and certainly right now we're seeing Hershey leading the Eastern Atlantic with a record of 15-6. They've got an 8-point lead, and looks like they had a bigger lead, but Bridgeport, before last night's loss, were on a pretty good win streak for the week. And the Bears have gotten off to a nice start. In the Eastern North, you see Toronto, of course, leading Syracuse only by 3. Even though Toronto's got a tremendous record, Syracuse quietly has done it right behind them and is only back by 3 points. Binghamton back by 5, and then 9 to Utica. So the top 4 in that division have stayed with each other for the most part and are all playing well. So that one is going to be a tight one. Western Central with Cleveland and Iowa, Manitoba coming up. We'll talk about those teams a little later on. And the Western Pacific, we saw San Jose and Stockton last night. The Heat are the Heat. They're going to be there. They're still 11 points behind San Jose, but I expect that to be made up pretty quickly. Ontario had fallen a little bit on hard times this week, but Texas also still right there as well. So the teams that I mentioned, are they the cream of the crop that have risen to the top at this point? Do we see any other teams that we think are having some issues that aren't necessarily playing up to their potential, and maybe we expect them to show up eventually?
Just looking over the standings, I mean, the only team that really pops out at me at this current point in time is maybe the Griffins.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Griffins are a pretty good team, and I think maybe eventually they do sneak their way into a 4th slot, and maybe put even a little bit of pressure on. Well, I'm not going to say us because by that time we'll be number 1 in the division, but whoever is in that 3rd slot at the time, whether it be the Monsters or the Iowa Wild, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they'll put a little bit of pressure on whoever that is.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the Heat to kind of rise back up to the top. I'm wondering if it's going to happen though, because I mean, you've got teams like the Barracuda and the Reign doing as well as they're doing right now.
Right.
The Heat aren't terribly far behind. I mean, they're 11 points back of first, so that's not a huge gap. But I mean, it's a big enough one to really. They're going to have to kind of pick it up if they want to get that top spot or in and around there. So it's going to be interesting to see if they're actually going to still kind of hover at this 4th spot throughout the season, or if they're actually going to make a real good push and get back up to the top like they were in last season. But that's the one team I'm still keeping an eye on here. I mean, the Griffins, they had a pretty rough week, going 4-4-2 in their last 10 games there. I don't know if they're gonna have another week like they did last week, but I am still gonna keep my eye on those guys for sure. For the other teams in other divisions right now, I mean, it's relatively close for some of them, so it's just kind of a wait and see for a lot of these teams, I think. But yeah, those are the teams I'm going to be kind of keeping more of an eye on here.
The Griffins have a really good 1.5, like really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But they kind of fall off a little bit there, and I think that'll ultimately be their downfall unless they can do something. But they got a really good top half of that team.
Okay.
got to go over that list to see again who's on that team. I haven't actually gone and, to be honest, looked at every single team and analyzed every little detail about them. But there was one thing I was going to point out to you about the Western Pacific with the Texas Stars here. I was a little curious when I saw the stats here because I see that they're one of the top leading teams when it comes to goals for. They got 113 goals for. They also have some of the most goals against at 104. So it's good that team's scoring a lot. But it's curious to see how this is going to last because that kind of trend with having that many goals against, it's not always going to go work out for you. I mean, obviously, if you're scoring a lot of goals and making making the wins come through that way, it's how long is your luck going to last when we're going to be letting in all these goals as well? So it seems like they're having some high scoring games, but how long will that last for them to be able to maintain staying where they're at right now? Because that's going to be, to me, I don't know, something I'm going to be keeping on as well.
Well, I think as each and every team has played the other divisions, once we once we get through having touch base with the other divisions, this also could be a situation where maybe some really good teams have feasted on others that have not been so successful so far this season. And as maybe as the Western Pacific and the Western Central play each other more often, the top teams for sure, these records will leave it out a little bit more. I think a familiarity too of the team. A good team, if you're playing them now or if you're playing them in week 6, week 7, week 8, typically you're not going to see a lot of movement in players. You're going to know what you went through with them last time, and if your management does their job well, they'll say, look, this is what they did last time. This is what we're going to do to defend it this time. And I think those matchups get tougher and tougher as the season goes on. We're still moving guys around. We're still trying to feel out all the other teams and figure out what we have to do to combat against them. And I think that's part of the mystery of early in the season that we all have to deal with.
For sure. And I should point out, though, that the rest of that division has amongst the higher goals against average in general. So it's not just them. I'm not trying to pick on them specifically in that regard with that kind of stat. But it's just a curious one, just as I see they are scoring a lot, but they're also letting a lot in. And so is kind of that division in general.
And, one of the things that we want to talk more about is the idea of the rivalries that are cropping up. The Eastern North, I think we're seeing still the same 3-4 teams that we saw in season 4. Syracuse and Binghamton have were right down to the end there in the Eastern North last season. They're right there again with Toronto, who played really well until they wound up having issues very late in the season, and then they fell off the face of the earth. So, again, you never know whether or not these are going to stick up, but I like what I see in the Eastern North as rivalries. I think Toronto, Utica, Binghamton, Syracuse. I think Binghamton, Syracuse is one that, again, like we said, went right to the playoffs last season, and one that is actually, I think a pretty good one at this point. And then in the Western Central, I think everyone wants to shoot for Cleveland. I don't know if they have one rival that they absolutely, could say is their rival. Maybe Charlotte because of what happened last season, but and in the Western Pacific, I think everyone again aiming for Stockton. I think Stockton and Texas again could be a really fun one to watch. But I think one of my favorite ones right now is Syracuse and Binghamton because I think they're just two very good teams, very equal, and staying close to Toronto and keeping within striking range. And I think those games, every one of them in Eastern North, amongst at least the top 4, are going to be very interesting all season long.
Yeah, I think any sort of quote unquote rivalry that involves Binghamton should be fun because their GM Full Melt is kind of a mouthpiece, and I feel like it could definitely be interesting, especially as playoffs come around, to see what type of chirping goes on between his team and him and whatever team it is that he's going up against. So
right,
that could be fun.
Yeah, I can see the shout box getting lit up by him for sure. I've seen him around quite a bit here and there.
Yeah.
Any other rivalries you're seeing in the league that you think are interesting that may not have been ones that you thought were going to show up, but we're seeing some good games from them so far this season?
I don't want to jump the gun on talking about last night's game, but Stockton and the Barracuda.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that so far.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. I think that as Stockton pushes up here in this division and the Barracuda fight to hold on, I think that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think that will be actually.
We can move on to some of the other things that have to do with week 3. I'm not sure. It's interesting that after week 3, we are starting to see a formation of groupings of teams in each division. And my question is, do we? It's sort of like watching a watching a storm form. You can kind of see where the clouds are coming from, and all of a sudden, you're seeing this concentration of something. Do we think that's happening now? Is it the way it's panning out already with some of these divisions? Do we expect that to stay on form, or is there anything going on in a division right now that you're really not sure how it's going to work out? I guess, for example, I would say Eastern Atlantic, again, very similar to last season, but I haven't seen anybody really show that they can stay with the Hershey Bears just yet. So I really don't know what's going to happen in that division, quite honestly. I would expect Hershey to stay up top. I don't know who else is going to come out of that pack to be a real contender. The other divisions, I am seeing that pattern. I'm seeing that 3, 4, maybe 5 teams coming to the forefront, and I don't know if I see any of them really falling off to not make the playoffs. What are you guys thinking as far as are the divisions? Are they forming the way they are? Are they tightening up the way you would expect them to? Vibes. Let me
They
get
are.
it from you.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I feel like the Eastern North and the Western Central are definitely rounding out. I think there's a little bit of again, I hate that I'm in like almost directly in line with you on this, but I am, and I think the Eastern Atlantic, with the exception of Hershey, and you know what, I'm gonna put a target on my team's back by saying this, but whatever. With the exception of Hershey, the rest of the teams in this division are shit. They're not very good. And I think it's just going to be a situation where you have a bunch of teams who are not very good, clawing and fighting and just trying to figure out a way to get in. And the beauty about this division, and is that whatever team does get in, kind of has a chance to at least maybe end up going against Hershey, and I don't think that they're going to get past Hershey, but they at least have a chance to get through a first round and get a little bit of playoff experience. But I mean, this division, in my opinion, is not very good, and I'm just going to be honest. And whether or not that puts a target on my team's back, so be it. But uh, Hershey is good, but the rest of them just not very good. And then in the Pacific Division, I think that again, like I mean, I always say it, and in a lot of ways, like I'm running Manitoba this season, and I kind of don't want to be a Stockton fanboy, but I am. I'm a fan of Stockton, and I like Stockton, and I like what they bring to the table. I think again, Loops has constructed a pretty well-rounded team. I think they're a little bit lighter in the defensive end in comparison to last season, but other than that, I think they're a very good team, and I think they're going to push their way up here. And this is essentially going to become a two-team battle for the top spot between Stockton and the Barracuda. And I think that looking at each of these teams as a full team perspective, I think Stockton is the best team in this division. And I know that sounds funny with them sitting fourth right now, but it's just how I see this division.
Oh, I guess my first question is, what exactly is clawing?
I'm sorry.
I'm from
No,
New
I'm
York,
just
and I didn't even catch that one.
Clawing.
Claw.
clawing.
It's supposed to be
Clawing.
claw.
Yeah.
Clawing their way. No, I'm just bugging your vibes. Anyhow, yeah. No, I do
Fucking sack
agree.
of potatoes over here.
Oh, there we go. The potatoes come out. Here we go. The potatoes.
There we go.
Potatoes. Yes. I don't know what potatoes are, but anyways, yeah. No, you guys pretty much nailed it for the most part. I think I can't really disagree with anything that you guys have been saying and trying to, but I can't. I mean, these kind of are facts right now here. So there's probably going to be a few teams that might surprise us, maybe coming from some of these divisions in terms of like the fifth, sixth spots. Maybe they'll start clawing their way back up. But I think right now, as you've said many times before, with the third week going into it, and just kind of being like shaping up to be how things are going to be. A lot of the teams that we see in the places in the top 4 spots are really going to be switching chairs, just basically each position is going to be fought after pretty heavily. And I don't think there's going to be a clear winner coming out until obviously close to the end here. But right now we can start to see this is probably how it's going to look for the next while all these teams fight for these spots. And those the Eastern Atlantic Division and the Western Pacific being just a little bit of the weaker of the bunch. But ultimately, I think these we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I can't say who's going to challenge the Bears so far in that division. It's kind of hard to say with the rest of these teams. They all kind of seem to be in the same kind of boats. But maybe I'll throw a little something to my old teammate Tyler and see if the Phantoms can maybe jump up to that fourth spot and keep that for a while.
Well, as we talk about the league and the divisions and how things have gone to this point, let's bring in Vanessa Graph, VRain19 on LeagueGaming.com, who put out an article earlier this week, her War Room breakdown, a bit of a deep dive into how things are going so far in the fifth season here in LG. And Vanessa, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, it's not a problem at all.
So, you broke down your deep dive into a bunch of players or teams that were hot. Yeah, forwards, defense, goaltenders. You gave a top 15. Very quick hits about it so far. Let's get some general ideas from you though about how season 5 is going. What are some of the bigger positives that you see coming up so far in this season? And we certainly have, I think, a bunch of negatives we all want to talk about. But what are some of the good things that you're seeing so far in season 5?
Well, so let me go ahead and give you a little backstory behind the whole article itself. It's basically taking 2 weeks worth of games as a data sample.
Right.
And pretty much breaking it down piece by piece, analyzing what's happening. So the first thing that I noticed that was happening was during the first week, a lot of really good players from the previous season were getting really shitty starts.
Mm-hmm.
And pardon my language, but they were definitely getting thrown into the shitter for it. You had goalies that were not actually performing the way they can, and even had forwards that were just not producing. Nothing was going right for them, or they just didn't have any puck luck. So,
right.
Going off to the second week, you actually then start to notice some of those players from the last season. They start clawing their way straight up to the top of the ranks. Clutch Dolphin, for one,
Mm-hmm.
he definitely had a terrible start to the season. And I know his style. I actually scouted him in season 3. He definitely has skill in net. And I'm very happy to see his very, very good record that he came up with for the second week. Kudos to him on that one. That takes a lot of focus and a lot of determination to pull that shit off.
Now, I was just going to throw in one question here. What do you think you attribute that to? Is it, a lot of what we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, and we started talking about it late last season, is obviously on the PSN side, there's been a bigger influx of a lot more players coming in. Certainly it's not season 1 and 2 where, you had a lot of the repeat offenders coming back and taking their spots. We're seeing a lot of guys, and if you look on the TC rosters in the AHL, you're seeing names that you've seen play AHL, and maybe even some that have played NHL. Is it an influx of other players that have come in that maybe have really strengthened the talent pool, and so some of these guys who've been around for a few seasons, with a solid job and keeping it in the AHL, even the NHL, are they struggling to try to adapt to the better quality of talent that's out there?
I think it's more so actually just the random spurts of fresh talent that's not been seen, because last season they were in the AHL and you had quite a few draft picks and prospects from the previous season make the jump, and they definitely surprised and turned a few heads. I can definitely say that. You have Columbus's organization who drafted, I think it was 2 goalies this season,
Mm-hmm.
and they just automatically stacked the Cleveland Monsters full of goalies,
Right.
making it hard for anyone to try and get any kind of a job there in net. So I definitely say it has definitely caused some kind of an influx or influence into people being able to actually stay in the positions they have actually earned.
Yeah, and I think that's been. I think that is a struggle, and it's interesting to see, a bunch of players who have, you know, been repeaters who have been there for the first few seasons and are now, toiling down the CHL. And some of them, I think, maybe on their own accord, but certainly dealing with a bigger talent pool, and the owners and GMs have a selection of guys to look at, and when you're running camps before a season, you're getting to see a lot more players now who are available, who are new talent, who might strike you as someone who it can help your team right away, and all of a sudden there's a variable that and another player who is going to knock some others down in the rankings, and so I think a good amount of what you say is absolutely the truth, and it'll be even more interesting as seasons go on to see if it settles down eventually at some point, as it appears to have done over the years for Xbox, and whether or not PSN is going to have the same kind of situation happen with them too.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I know that this season alone, the CHL's actually finally hit the 60 teams. It was a little bit of a shaky start because we barely had there was between 3 to 5 actually active TC roster players that they could actually call upon. So if with the new NHL 18, when it comes out and all that other info is released next week for the NHL awards, then we'll see what we can do for the PlayStation side at least. But maybe if the Xbox players actually continue to keep playing in both leagues, we could see more growth. We couldn't otherwise, but it's all up in the air, honestly.
Do you think this was a good time to expand to the 60 teams for the CHL?
I honestly think it was a little bit rushed.
Yeah.
I can actually say for a fact, playing in net in the CHL for past 2 or so weeks now, the defense pool is extremely diluted.
Yeah, I took a look at the rosters the other day and I was like, oh my god, it must be a nightmare for those poor CHL owners because there's a lot of them don't even have entire rosters of defenders, and let alone any of them on their TCs.
Oh yeah, and you even have blowout after blowout happening. Like there was one game that went 17-2.
Right. Yeah. We've seen a couple of those that have been kind of ridiculous, and we've heard the stories from the management down there about how much of a nightmare it is. I mean, we think we have it tough in the AHL, and it certainly is a pain in the ass this season. But the CHL, I mean, those poor bastards down there have to do everything they can just to get enough people on the ice to play.
Yeah, it sounded.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. So you're.
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I can probably say at least about 25 to 30, so about half the league roughly, is able to actually show an entire team or at least field one onto the ice. But the rest, they're still struggling. And I can definitely say that there's quite a lot of younger age players actually joining the league recently, too.
Now, also part of your article here is about power rankings for each team for the first couple of weeks, and uh, what's your expectation when you're looking at a season, the first 2, 3, 4 weeks? When do you typically think you're going to see these power rankings settle down to a point where it's going to be pretty consistent from here on in?
I would actually have to say right after week 4 is when you'll start to see a very consistent amount of data with how many goals teams are scoring, what plus minuses players are going to have, how well they're playing in net. Definitely by by the end of the fourth week, you'll start to see who's hot, who's not, who's definitely knowing what they're doing this season, who is just literally just screwing around terribly. You could probably also say that you can see a lot of teams that will actually start to show that they're clawing their way up the rankings, or at least trying to. So more than likely by the end of next week, I'll actually be able to take a look at all the data between the first 4 weeks and really deep dive and analyze what all has happened, what roster moves have actually made improvements. This next article is going to be pretty interesting.
And this is going to be fun to read whenever you have these out, because you're going to see the shift. You're going to see some changes. But one of the things that we've talked about, and we were looking forward to this show, is something that Vibes has said, and I'm not sure if I agree to some extent, but I might lean more towards what you're saying. Vibes feels like is more of a after week 3, see how things are shaping up, and you're going to get a really good picture of how things probably will happen. I think I kind of believe week 4 maybe so, just because we still saw a lot of movement last night of a lot of players, and I don't know if it's because of the struggle it is to put together a full team with the players we have for the summer season. I don't know if it's because of management and whether or not we have some folks who are a little more new who are, fretting every week and are moving a lot of players. Whatever the case may be, I still think we're seeing a lot, maybe a little too much movement to say after week 3 that things are starting to settle down. I kind of think we're going to need another week this season to figure out, what teams are doing, what direction they're heading in, and if we see them having a big fall off or not.
Excuse me, Sibs. Are you trying to one up me? Are you trying to create your own theory here? Is that what's going on here? Are you trying to?
No, no. Hold
excuse
on.
you for just a second. Are you trying to delegitimize the week 3 standard and take it to a week 4? Is that what's going on right now?
You're assuming you had any legitimacy at all in what you were saying. No, this is
The season starts at week 4.
Week
So no. It's not till week 3.
No, look, I'm telling you right now, I think there's still too many trades going on right now. There's still too much player movement to say we know how things are going to happen. I think after week 4, I think we're going to have a little bit better. I think it's pretty obvious who a lot of the front runners are right now, and unless you get like a Mello quitting on the team at the last second and really screwing them, you're not going to have that kind of drop off at this point. I agree with you on that principle, but I think after week 4, and if player movement slows down, I think it's going to be a little more obvious of who the teams are who are going to keep moving forward. I'm sort of riding the fence about what you and Vanessa have said. Is that good enough for you?
I think you should fucking jump out a window. That's what I think.
Window?
Oh, that
A window? A bridge?
Everything ends with an A if you're from New York, so just give them some slack. I knew that would piss off Vibes a little bit, but I do get what you're saying.
Week 4. Where the fuck did week 4?
Well, you've been promoting week 3.
Yeah.
You've been promoting week 3 since we started the show this season, and I'm not 100% on your side on that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, somebody's got to be wrong.
It's your turn.
Well, Vibes, it might be you.
No, that don't happen.
Hey, before we let you go, is there? First of all, what do you? When do you plan on getting the next article out? Your next War Room visit to the crowd here.
Let's see. That'll be about.
When the season starts, week 5.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I'm not going to stand it anymore.
You have probably another week or 2 before you put another one out. You're not doing this every week because there are just such subtle changes at times, and this is more of a bi-weekly, maybe every 3 weeks you might put something like this out. And
Yeah,
so,
it's pretty much just like that, a biweekly article where I actually get a decent size amount of data. That way I can actually see a trend a lot better. I mean,
right,
you're not going to take one game and determine someone's playing skill just by that. You're going to take multiple games and actually test them in different situations, see what they can do to better know exactly how they play.
right. Well,
I
listen,
mean, that's the exact same approach I used when I was an owner for the North Bay Battalion in season 3. We literally just missed the Memorial Cup final, or no, it was the Memorial Cup. I think it was.
yeah,
But yeah, we just missed it off a really goofy deflection and an OT loss in Game 6. But you have to be able to get a decent amount of stuff to analyze to actually understand how a player works. So that's basically what I do when I make these articles, and that's what I'm trying to do every 2 weeks. So that way I'm getting at least 6 games for a skater and a good amount of games for goalies, whether they're starters or backups. So, yep.
it is. You can see it on the main page of AHL, where all the postings are. The War Room Analysis First Edition by Vanessa Graph is there now. Go take a look. It's got the media tag on it, and give it a read. And expect more coming from Vanessa down the road. Thanks for your time tonight. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, it's not a problem. And Vibes, stay away from that mom.
Oh, it's a whole nother story.
All right, peace out.
Thanks. Later. Vanessa Graph joining us tonight with an article that is, I would say, Dead Soul, diametrically opposed to what Vibes and his thoughts are on when the season starts.
I'm opposed to that.
No,
Sorry,
no,
is
no,
that
no. That Vanessa's article is
Oh yeah,
kind of contradicting what Vibes has been saying. It kind of looks that way, doesn't it?
a little bit, yeah. And you know, we need to have a little bit more people come up and step up against the
Yep.
you know, big old vibes here. His tall tales,
Listen,
like
the more and more people that want to fucking line up to be wrong, by all means, go for it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there are plenty of them in this league, so let's get back to a lot of what we're talking about tonight. We've talked
Make
about.
me. Why are you guys making me the evil villain of LG? Come on.
I
I
don't
think
think
you
it's
already did a
us
good
that have
job.
done that.
Yeah, I think you've done it pretty good job
Jesus.
yourself there.
Come on.
Second of all, I don't think you're the evil villain. I think, well, I think there are some other candidates. We're going to be talking about one in a little bit, but I think there are other guys who
That's
are.
not a villain. That's a fucking psychopath.
Well,
But okay, go ahead.
we'll talk about
Troll on
that
the bridge.
shortly. We've talked about week 3. Let's get on to a little bit of what some of the other topics that have been floating around, and there's probably also enough discussion and conflict and non-understanding about how any of these players are handled. A lot of the player structure in the league and what each one of the designations are. So, you guys in management have to deal with players that are designated DP. So, as we go along and start talking about that, Vibes, why don't you explain what that means for player designation and what you guys have to do as management with that type of player?
All right, so DP is a draft pick. That's what the DP stands for. It doesn't stand for double penetration, although recently I kind of felt like it did. But it stands for draft pick. At least that's what it's supposed to mean. And so a draft pick is obviously someone who's selected in the entry draft and is supposed to be a vital asset for the organization. Not just the NHL club, but the AHL club as well, and all parties of the organization. So we recently had a issue over here in the Manitoba slash Winnipeg organization with a draft pick who I'm not going to mention right now on air. But just to clarify it wasn't his fault or anyone else involved's fault. It's more this is more a discrepancy with the league, and I think that Dead Soul will weigh in here and kind of support me on this. But for a draft pick to be tagged with the management label in the CHL, preventing them from being called up full time by either the AHL or the NHL, I think is a grand fallacy in the system, and for that to exist should be changed. In fact, I'm not going to say should be changed. Like it needs to be changed. Like that's a broken aspect of the league, and to be able to have a draft pick which you spend your pick on, this is supposed to be for the organization. Like you go out and you spend your pick on a player, and then to have that player weaseled away from you throughout the system, I think is a flaw.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, DP could certainly also stand for dick punch. I mean, the way that things are going, with how that can happen. But no, I think what Vibes is trying to say here is ultimately, I don't know. I don't think you found a rule, did you? Were you given a rule? Were you shown a
No,
rule?
no, I wasn't, and I mean, like, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, how sometimes you feel like you read something, and then you go back and you try and find it, and you just can't seem to find it.
Oh, you
Like,
mean the Mandela effect?
yeah, like something like that, like a Mandela effect, in a way. Something you thought existed, but it never did. And I felt like I read that a draft pick can't take management. I mean, and maybe it's the fact that it's kind of a no-brainer, because like this is a draft pick for the organization. So how can suddenly this draft pick be taken away through some sort of loophole in the system? I think it's absolutely garbage, and it's a few days ago I did feel like DP felt stood for double penetration, because that's what it seemed like. It seemed like I had one in my mouth, one in my ass, and people were going to town because it was just I don't know. It's not something that should be.
Well, here's the thing, though. I went around and I looked to see if there was any specifics related to management and draft picks. My assumption, and I think most people's, would be that no, they should not and cannot be allowed to take a managing position in the CHL or anywhere for that matter, because that will lock them into where they are if it's not, a specific kind of management role. Like, anyways, what I'm trying to get at here is, yeah, there's no clarification on this rule. I think we were told, or at least you were told, that it could have been okay, which is curious because it shouldn't. Draft picks should be exactly that, something used to, for all the organization, like you said. And when things aren't working out for somebody, or you want to have a little bit more competition for those roles on, on your roster there, it helps to have these guys around waiting in the wings, and it also helps to have them to be able to groom them for their next step. A lot of the time these guys won't go straight to the NHL. There's only a few that probably will, and in some circumstances they'll go there because of necessity. Like in our case, we've had to have that happen too, with a certain somebody, quitting on us. But anyways, yeah, it's a rule that I think needs to be addressed. I think they have to have it clearly and plainly written into the rules if it's not already. And so, forgive me if it's there and I just can't find it and can't read or something. But I don't see any clarification on it. But I think there needs to be that clarification to tell people that, hey, draft picks are not to be managers.
Vesna in the chat right now says that he is a DP and he holds management status in the AHL.
Yeah, to see, that's something that I don't think that's supposed to be the case. I think that they've allowed it, and I think that's more of the case of there's just, there's no specific thing about it. And I think it just comes down to a little committee saying, well, whatever, we'll just let it go, because it's just not in the rules. And really, the league is pretty bent on how the rules are written, and if it's not written there, then it's not really a rule.
Yeah, I mean,
I was just gonna say Vesna's a little different, I think, because he's a paid AGM. He's not a no contract
right.
AGM.
Okay. No. But that's the thing, though. So
Yeah.
now, if his NHL team decides they want him up,
Mm-hmm.
he can't go up until he relinquishes the AGM role. So now, if he says, no, I don't want to let it go, I want to remain AGM, the NHL's hands are essentially tied. And
That's
that's
the issue.
bullshit.
Yeah, it's not. It's something that shouldn't be the case, because if a draft pick, I think if anything shouldn't be, there's prospects that aren't allowed to be managers in AHL. They're not allowed to play in the AHL, right? So it's the same kind of thing. You should think of the draft pick as a prospect. I guess what would you call it? A glorified prospect. Somebody that can actually go between the ranks of anywhere and everywhere, yet still not be specific to a veteran or amateur status. And that's really the whole point of it, is to allow you that flexibility and to have them be groomed, but also to have it so they're there for you when you need them. And when you have a guy like that, who's actually been playing really good for their team, by the way, uh, it's unfortunate for their NHL club that they can't call him up because he's got a managing role right now.
Yeah. And if he chooses not to let that go, the NHL team is, well, DP it goes from draft pick to double penetration because they're fucked. And there's nothing they can do about it. And to me, that's a huge flaw. I mean, you know, we talk all the time about this league being as close to real life hockey and the real life hockey system and things like that. Well, that's the furthest thing imaginable away from it, because imagine whatever team wanting to call up a prospect and be told that they can't.
Right.
You know.
Well, again, I think a lot. I mean, look, I think a lot of these are done because we are, the league is trying to get to a point where they have things very similar to the way that they are in Xbox. But the problem is, we're still on, just early in season 5 right now. It's again, it's like building a building. You just because you have the framework up doesn't mean that the building is pretty much done, and so you should call it that. It's not. There's still a lot of growth and a lot of changes that have to be made, and adaptations that we have to get to, and season by season it needs to change a little bit. It needs to adapt to how many guys are in the league. What is the AHL has to worry about the CHL a bit, because again, we've got a lot of teams down there, but not a lot of players. What are you able to do with them? I understand a lot of what Brody has said over the last season or so, but I still think you could plan all you want as an AHL owner. You could have a half a dozen amateurs and veterans that you can call up at any time permanently, but they could be gone tomorrow because of some infraction, because they decide, I don't want to play for the summer now. I'll take the suspension. How you start off the season doesn't mean anything, because how you are 3, 4, 5 weeks into it, where you're starting to really get your roster together and you're trying to solidify things. If a guy gets suspended, and look, we see this left and right. How many times do we see guys getting suspended in this league, dropping out because of one reason or another? Your TC roster could be totally decimated within 2 weeks, and it doesn't matter how well you set up for it. That's where, you don't make this a job for people. You make this fun for them, and you give them opportunities where they can bring up players. You don't want prospects going up full time. I get it. But you got to be able to use these guys more often. You've got to be able to maybe bring up one prospect full time. Give a little bit of flexibility, because again, you guys know this, your management. You inherit these guys who are on your TC roster. You don't pick them. And so, there's no saying that they aren't going to be inactive. Again, there'll be dozens of guys every week who get marked inactive and get tossed from the league because of it. So don't tell me that there's enough guys down in the TC. Don't tell me that there's enough preparation that any GM or AGM can do to be ready for that. It's bullshit, because there's no judging who's going to be on your TC roster, and there's no judging what stupidity they're going to do to get themselves thrown out of the league. And that's nothing that any management guy can control, and that's where you have to have some flexibility with these rosters. Otherwise, it becomes a job for everybody. And this is socializing, this is fun, this is an escape from a job. I'd like to think. For most of us, for some of us who are still in high school, it is what it is. But let's not make this a job for people who have volunteered to be management and want to field the best team that they can and handcuff them with things like this.
Yeah, and I certainly don't think the league is doing this on purpose to screw anybody over. I
No,
think
no,
that
of
they're
course
just
not.
excited and just to make sure that they don't think otherwise. Because we all realize what work has been put in to make this, and we all appreciate it without a question. The thing is, though, I mean, I think they've tried to expand very quickly in a way that they've had the numbers, they've had the people, they've had the interest. However, there's a lot of little bit of things here and there that don't really relate to the Xbox side that they have to remember to keep in mind going on to each season. That hey, there's not always going to be that huge variety of people that you can choose from in the A and B status, for call ups or for ECUs and all that kind of stuff. So even now, even this season is a little early on to kind of put the kibosh on having the prospects being allowed to ECU or play in the AHL to a level. Just specifically in the summer season, because I mean, I see that with the summer season, it's just there's a lot less players playing, and people are a lot more busy, and certainly people are a lot more likely to maybe skip out on a game when it's a beautiful sunny day, evening out, I guess, and maybe they just want to go out somewhere instead of like stay in and play a hockey game. So I think a case by case basis for some of this stuff needs to be kind of looked at, and there needs to be a little bit of leeway for sure on some of these rules, especially for this particular summer season. And even the ECUs, I know that we're going to probably get into that at some point, but for example, having 8 ECUs altogether, I mean, sure, that might be a real nice healthy number for the rest of any other season, but during the summer season, I mean, we're blowing through ECUs like crazy. Every game, at least one ECU is being used, at least in my case. And I know Fives has had the same situation, and we're not the only ones going through that. So those are just things that they really need to kind of, factor in, for the next coming seasons, because it's still going to be maybe a little bit of a problem for another season or two, perhaps.
I'm gonna give it back to you a little bit, and I'm gonna ask you, one, what the fuck is a kibosh, and two, can you explain to me the idea of a sunny evening?
Yeah, there you go. Well, I did correct myself and say a nice evening, but yes, you're right. I mean, it
Maybe
could
in
be a
your
sunny
mind you
evening
didn't.
if you're in Alaska, and it's mostly sunny most of the time, or forever, however many hours of the day that it can be at certain times of the year, then means something. But kibosh, put an end to, dispose of decisively. All right, that's what it means. So
Kibosh,
I'll put a kibosh on you now.
You never heard.
not kibosh,
You're
but
not. You're
kibosh.
not young. You're old. You're older. You should know that word.
Kibosh?
Did you go to a New York City school?
I've heard of kibosh, not kibosh.
I've heard
Maybe
it
it's just
called kibosh.
maybe
Well,
the Canadian.
this is
way
I
of
mean,
saying
this this is the guy who hasn't pronounced anything correctly at all tonight in the show, and he wants to say how a word's supposed to be pronounced.
I mean, it sounds like something I go to the Chinese store and order. Yeah, I'll take a
And
little bit of kibosh and some egg foo young. What the fuck is a kibosh?
well, what's a potato?
Whatever. A potato.
Yeah. Jeez. Hey, can we get back to a discussion now? As we're heading into the end of our first hour, we want to get through some of these other things if we can. Do we? I don't know. What do we talk about next? What would you like to? We got a long list of stuff, and we're not going to get to all of this. So,
Can we hang Bubba real quick?
yeah, sure. Let's do that.
All right.
What we like to call the public execution of Bubba.
The public execution of Bubba 17. You guys all know him as the Wild. What was he? The AGM last season. And I might take some shit from some of his buddies, but I mean, I think you should know your friends. And Dead Soul will back me up on this one, but the guy's a total psychopath. He recently, number one, he decided that he was going to leave a team because for personal reasons, but then he shows up and he's playing on the Xbox side. I think he caught cancer like 2 or 3 times, supposedly. And he also he's been inviting people to old team chats and just basically trolling both teams that in 2 different leagues he's been doing it. And the guy's a total and complete maniac, and I think Dead Soul will probably chime in on this a little bit.
Yeah, I guess if you're gonna put me on the spot a little bit, yeah, he's got a few screws loose to put it politely. I don't know what's the deal with him. I thought he was a pretty nice stand-up guy initially, but it turns out he's just kind of a serial troller. So just forewarning everybody if you ever have to deal with him. And I'm sure his name won't be Bubba for long. I mean, he also goes by Lidstrom and another name I can't remember what, but I'm sure he'll make another account or two or 10 or 100. But yeah, he's unfortunately, I have to say, he's somebody that you got to stay away from. And if he's your buddy, well, maybe you got to choose your friends a little better. Who knows?
Everything you know about him is fake. It's
It's
not
not
true. It's a
true. Yeah.
lie. He's a terrible, terrible person, a terrible, terrible troll, and he hates humanity. So just remember that. And he is a very bad person to be around, and he's crazy. He's absolute nuts. I've heard from people that have seen him on cam before, and they said that his house is like a crazy place with boxes everywhere and newspaper clippings and shit. He's like a serial killer. He told me the other day he was going to kill me. Stay away from him.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. I played with Bubba in season 1 with the Bears. I think he might have come back to us in season 2. I'm trying to remember. Always got along well with him. Joked around a lot. Seemed to be fine. I guess some of the recent stuff that's been going on is pretty out there, and we really can't talk about some of the other things that we know or that we have been told because there's no validating that any of it's true. But there were some other things that were somewhat disturbing that we had heard that, if they are true, is something that is a big concern, and it's a shame.
This is just a PSA. Honestly, that's what this is. This is a great big giant PSA for anyone who was ever thinking about maybe making him management or being involved with him in any sort of way. Don't do it. I mean, if you want to do it, by all means, but just remember I told you so.
So what's been going on? I guess you talked about trolling. What's been going on specifically that that you've seen that's been going on with messaging, with getting groups of people together? What's that been about?
Well, from what I
Uh,
saw, like he took over one of our. He was still in our chats because you have to leave on PSN yourself. I can't just kick somebody out of a chat, unfortunately. And he's the one who made the chat for the Winnipeg Jets there, and then he just started inviting a bunch of people in there. And I know in one of his other chat boxes, he would write out entire long sentences, one word at a time, to be able to have maximum annoyance with notifications going on nonstop for people. And that's just his way of having fun, apparently. So that's kind of what he was doing, and he continues to do that kind of stuff and pretend like it's just him having fun, but really it's obviously something's wrong with that guy.
yeah, I wish people could be in my shoes and just see all the things that he did. It's one of those things where it's like you try to explain it to people and it'll never have the full effect as actually experiencing it.
Oh, you know
So I'll
what?
leave it. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah,
And go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
no, but I can attest to that because I mean, bringing him on as management, I had no idea about any of his history, and I should have done a lot more research apparently. But as soon as he quit, and that's when everybody kind of started to tell me all these stories, about him, and I didn't believe him at first until he started doing this stuff this week. I was like, oh, okay, well, I see what they were talking about now.
So when he quit on you guys, was it management or was it playing or both that he couldn't have time
Both.
for?
Yeah,
Both.
he said he didn't have time to play. He didn't have time to manage. I gave him the opportunity to stick around as a player, just play his 3 games, show up, and just have his title and name only, because otherwise that would result in a ban. But in the end, he ended up choosing to leave. And the first troll that he did was wave one of my players without my permission. And yeah, so that was thankfully reversed.
Right. And was what he hadn't signed up for Xbox at that point yet?
I'm not sure. I have to go and look and see when he actually had signed up for it. It must have been afterwards, though.
Mm. Yeah, interesting. If that's the case, where he quit one league because he was too busy and then signed up in another one, that right there is a huge red flag in my book.
Well,
Yeah, and that's actually something else that we would like that I would like to talk about sometime in the near future. But I mean, I guess right now it's kind of hard to
Mm-hmm.
cram everything into one show. But that's something else where players get banned from the PSN, they buy out their ban and they go play an Xbox, which is a little odd.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's one I don't quite understand. Let's see what do we want to hit next? We had so many things on this list. Um, do you want to talk about volume of trades? And I think well, look, I think the one topic that we really talked a lot about this week was the high total of ECUs being used in the league. I think we have to absolutely talk about this. If it's the last topic, I kind of feel like we need to hit this one up and talk a little bit about it. Vibes after last night's game. What was your total up to of ECUs that you've had to use in the game in your games so far?
After last night, 26.
Wow.
That's in 3 weeks. That's crazy.
3 weeks, 27 games. Almost every game you've had to have an ECU in there.
Yeah, I mean, we like I said, it was 25, and then with last night it was 26, and it's just been I don't know, it's been a challenge, and every single night it seems like you're scrambling for ECUs, and every once in a while you do get a full six, but most nights you don't, and some nights it's multiple guys. Sometimes it's two, even three ECUs, and it seems like it's relentless. It's hard to not hard, but it's a chore to manage a team as is. So when you throw in the fact that you have to constantly scramble for ECUs, it just makes it that much more of a chore, really.
Well, it creates an added amount of stress, I can say, from my experience. It's
Oh
annoying to
yeah.
have to deal with. It's one thing. It's most players are pretty good. I mean, in my experience so far this season, most players have been actually really good and telling me well ahead of time. But sometimes the stress could be like some of the people, trying to get a hold of them to ECU, and sometimes it's if they're not scheduled for that night, they're obviously not going to be around, especially right now during summer. They're going to have their other plans, doing other things, so it makes it a little bit more stressful in that regard. But I can certainly attest to that because I've also been experiencing a high volume of ECUs for the last 3 weeks. I didn't actually go back and count them all out, but it's been about at least one every game.
Yeah,
Every
I was going to ask
yeah.
you if that's been a problem for you, and if you know if it's been an issue for other NHL teams so far this season.
I can say without a doubt it absolutely has been, and I've also caught some of the teams trying to move those guys off their roster onto others, and I'm very cautious when I go into my trades and when people are moving people, especially if they're pretty decent, and I'll be like, why is this person wanting to be moved? And like, oh, they can only play like 2 nights in a week. Well, I don't want that headache, so
I think it's a league wide issue on all levels, honestly. And I know for a fact that in the AHL, it can be really taxing because it's like, and for the most part, Dead Soul does know ahead of time, and that's,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, is a luxury. But there's times where suddenly he pops it up on me that he needs an ECU,
it's
and
happened.
I already need an ECU. So then if I give him an ECU from a position, that means I got to get the ECU I needed plus maybe another ECU, and it's just like, at that point, you just want to suck on some carbon monoxide or something and just end it all because it's fucking, it's taxing. It's definitely taxing on your ability to try and field the team. And this summer season has just been tough for me anyway. And I feel like there's a few GMs that'll probably attest to it as well. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it's not isolated to just my team, and I think it's been going on everywhere, honestly.
It's every team. Absolutely. You're going to hear it from everyone. I don't think there's a single team that hasn't had to deal with it this season. And it certainly is the worst it's been, I think, for me personally, in all the, several seasons I've been managing, I guess 4 now or whatever. This is the worst.
Yeah, Greek Zeus in the chat, and who was up until last night my GM. Uh, he uh, he reports 21 ECUs that he's had to use, and believe me, I've been I've been MOCing some of those games where he tells me, hey, I talked to this guy an hour ago, says he's ready to go. Then times come for me to start the game up, and nobody can find this guy. So You know, I want to believe what they tell me for their reasons for not making the game. I want to believe it. I don't know if I necessarily believe every excuse that I've heard so far, but there's been a lot of guys who, for whatever reason, are just not showing up and not wanting to get thrown out of the league, but not showing up if they don't want to show up. And it could be because they want to get moved. It could be a number of reasons, but it's been an epidemic this season, and I don't know, guys. I don't know how much of it's really the summer. I don't remember this a couple of seasons back, and that might have been what, season 3, where we were kind of in the summer. Was that the last season that we played before 17?
Season 2. So I was
Season
about
2,
for
yeah,
the
2?
summer.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't remember being
yeah.
that bad. I mean, again, PSN was just starting
It
out, and
wasn't.
there was a lot of
It wasn't.
interest in it, but it definitely wasn't this bad.
Yeah, but don't forget that we could actually use prospects anywhere and everywhere. So that was the biggest gain of everything. Like that was the beauty of
Yeah.
it. We just
Right.
had so much of a huge pool to use.
Yeah, it's just it's a big problem. We already have a big enough issue as it is with the lack of TC to begin with, and then when your regular players aren't showing up on a consistent basis, being a GM in the AHL and I said it before and I'll say it again, probably the toughest job of any of them in this league in general.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not easy in the NHL, but I think the AHL has it worse than anybody.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's definitely been a job. I can tell you that for sure.
Yeah, and kind of having a taste of both worlds now, finally, I can say without a doubt. I mean, there's different things about being the owner, and there's more things to worry about. But without a doubt, the GMs in the AHL have a lot more to worry about because owners typically end up poaching at some point or another. And I've tried very hard not to mess around with vibes and stuff. Like I've tried to keep things as, you know, his way as possible. And unfortunately, with Bubba quitting on us and other things that have come up, there's been some switching around. But that's the whole thing. Like the draft picks and the draft, that's what it's for. It's there so that you can have these guys that you picked out yourself to be able to have on the back burner if they're not already up there with you, and you can have them come up and down. And like if you don't have that kind of depth to begin in the season, you're going to be in some big trouble. So it makes the draft that much more valuable, and especially when you be able to select those people yourself and try not to have to rely on poaching your poor GMs in the AHL of their players.
Which leads us back into the whole draft pick thing and the complete and utter. I can't believe that a draft pick could be made management thing, but we're past that. So
Yeah, I think we could take a little more time to finish up this show with like maybe the last
oh,
couple of top.
and real quick, I
Uh,
just want to one more thing. It's not even the playoffs yet. So imagine once
oh
prospects
yeah.
can't ECU. This is going to be. I mean, you might not survive. You might not live past the playoffs if you're AHL management.
Well,
Honestly, I'm going to take out a life insurance policy tomorrow.
well, let's see what happens the first time a playoff team has to forfeit a game or a couple of games in a series because they can't field enough players. I think we had one in the first round last season, correct? And it was all sorts of shit come down because of that. When there are multiple games where this happens, possibly, is that enough of a clue that maybe this is a problem right now still in the PSN?
Yeah, I think the league they're definitely going to sit down and they're going to look at this, and I really hope that they just kind of look at this on the whole and see that there needs to be some leeway to a degree, because there are circumstances that come up that limit the availability of what's there. For example, I'm looking at the rosters and there's hardly any A's and V statuses for goalies. So I mean, if one of your goalies doesn't show up, and you got to get that guy in that game, and you can't use your other goalie for whatever reason, you are just good luck with whatever you're going to get on your TC roster of guys who've never played net before. So I think they need to kind of sit down and just look that over again, just to make sure that we don't have any teams that are going to just quit on or sorry, I shouldn't say quit, but teams that are going to basically have to forfeit, and it's going to ruin the entire playoffs. If you have teams doing that.
Let's move on to the last topic. Let's talk a little bit about teams of the week, players of the week, maybe a top performer of the week. Trying to get in some quick hits right now. We talked a little bit, and I think we were guilty of this last season too. Vibes. We watch a couple of teams play closely, and all of a sudden we're like, wow, these guys are really good. I really like this team. And so we saw Stockton and San Jose, and we saw two very good teams last night. I hadn't had a chance to see the Barracuda yet, but after last night's game, they struggled for for a couple of periods. First and third were really some tough periods for San Jose. Second period was, they got the one goal up on the board to put them up 2-1 on that one. I believe maybe that was the third, but either way, San Jose, when they played the kind of game that they wanted to against Stockton, they held their offense. They got a lot of good opportunities, and it was a nice showing for them for a little while. But Stockton is Stockton, and if I come out of anything from this week, I was wondering a little bit about the Heat, but I'm with you. I'm a firm believer in the Heat. I look. I'm gonna make a really bold prediction. They're in the finals again. Plain and simple.
Hang on a second. I gotta wipe the drool from my mouth. I mean, listen.
Am I going too
Stockton
far?
is the real deal.
I mean, you did
Stockton
say week
is,
3 is the week that I should know what's going on, right?
I was making a statement in regards to a comment that was made in the chat.
No, I know.
But yeah, I mean, I think Stockton is a very good team, and I think they're for real. I don't think they make the finals because unfortunately we're in their conference, so that's impossible.
I saw that coming.
But I can definitely see them making the conference finals. I can definitely see them being the best team in their division. I think last night they showed just exactly how powerful they can be, and I mean, they have. You saw how good that line was, and they have a line that's just as equally potent as that line. So again, they're a team that's built similar to mine. They have depth. They are very solid and balanced throughout the entire lineup. Maybe not the strongest defensive team, but they also have a very good defense. You know what I mean? Like I'm comparing them to last season, so in that sense, they're not as strong. But I mean, when you look at this team as a whole, they're definitely a well balanced team, and they have potency throughout their lineup, and they are going to be a problem. And I think they showed that last night. Early on, and even up till now, I think a lot of people probably would have said the Barracuda would be a little bit more powerful than Stockton, and that was proven last night to be false. You got guys like Pasta, and I know he's in the chat right now, and this isn't just to fluff his feathers or anything, but he's an exceptional player. And when you got a guy like that on your team, it's always going to give you a chance. But the thing is, he's not the only one. You look on the other end, and you got Ryan R. And then you look at Userpick, and then even at the top, you go up to Loops, and this is just a solid team all the way through.
Yep.
And I could definitely get behind you saying that they're going to be in the finals, and I like that prediction. The only fault with that is the fact that we're in that conference, so that can't happen. But aside from that, I like it.
I'd like to interject here, though, just before I get a little too ahead of yourself, because I didn't watch that game. I'll admit I was away. I was not able to watch it. I can only look at the stats here. But I'll tell you one thing. It looks like they had an ECU, speaking of which, in net. And, if they had one of their main starting goalies, this could have been a very different game. I'm not saying that it would have been absolutely for sure. Obviously, the Heat put on pretty much, I'd say, is that their top line? I'm pretty sure that's their top line.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Without a doubt.
I don't know. I would say that's probably 1A.
And
I
here's the thing. Don't forget that's a line that's played together for more than one season. Like they're going into their second season playing together here, right? They've got a lot of chemistry built up. They're all very skilled players. They're all excellent, every one of them. Now, with the Barracuda being a newer team with what they have together, maybe a few guys have come back, but there's certainly some new lines that they're making, and these lines that they've made are only going to get better. There might be switching around. I don't even know if this is the line that they've been rolling with the entire time with Squid and Stoner Boy and Razor Edge, but either way, I think if we see these two line up again, maybe with their starting goalies, I think we're going to see a very different game. So that's my 2 cents there, and I do think that the Barracuda is going to be one of those teams that are going to be at the, well, maybe not at the absolute finals, but I think close to.
I don't
Oh,
want.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take anything away from the Barracuda. No one's saying the Barracuda aren't a good team. But I am going to bat for Stockton right now, and there's certain things you look for in a team that they do, and that just tell you this team is on a different level. There was one play, and look, I mean, maybe this is me outing Stockton a little bit because I think I do have a certain vision for the game. But it won't matter because you guys won't even, when you're on the ice, you won't see it coming. But they run a little play where, the right wing moves to center a little bit as they're coming into the zone, and then the center kind of slides in behind them, and it's like a give and go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As the right wing slides in towards the center, they dish the puck over towards the right. The whoever's on the right side takes the puck low, and then they give and go right back into the middle for the 1T. And it's a great play, and it's an upper level play. It's a high level play, and when you see teams pulling things like that off, as opposed to your average just dipsy doodling in the corner, that's it's things like that that show you a team is ready, and they're ready.
Yeah, I just want to add quickly. I don't want to get past this. Is that yeah, I would beg you to watch the game. I think that the effort that was put in by No Skills and Net was a damn good one. But if you look at the goals, I don't think it would have made a difference who was in net. Salming is one of the regular goalies for Stockton. He made some good saves, but had a couple of lapses here and there that kind of led to the goals against. But I don't think goaltending was a situation. The way they move the puck and how quickly they move it and how well they're in position off of shots and rebounds. I mean, you have to be moving as the shot is happening to be able to be in position to be ready for the rebound that's coming your way at a 45-degree angle with half the net open. It's I don't think if you want to say the defense, if a defenseman was missing, I'd say maybe that would have had more impact on how they played the game. But that was not the case. I don't think goaltending really had that big of an impact on Stockton last night. They were making plays and finding openings that were just golden that a goaltender would have to stand on his head to make a save. And we have a lot of good goaltenders in this league, and Moose played the same Stockton team last season. And as good as Moose is, and arguably maybe the best goalie in the league, he made some great stops, but couldn't totally stop that team. And I kind of think Stockton's back to that point again.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and
Well,
they
again,
go ahead.
just to reiterate a little bit. First of all, again, I didn't watch that game. I will. It sounds like it was a really good game. It looks like it would have been a really good game. But that said, I think if these two match up again, I think it would be a little different, just because I think these lines will have a little bit more time to play with each other. And again, these guys with the Heat, they're an awesome team, and they've had a lot of practice together. And that's going to help them all along the way against any top line in any of these teams. And I think most times they're going to be the ones coming out on top. But I think the next matchup will be a little bit different either way, and I'm looking forward to it.
And we
And they
like.
moved the puck out to the D better than any other team in the
Yeah,
league.
absolutely.
Just gonna say that right now. They incorporate the D better than any other team in the league.
Right, I agree. I absolutely agree. And,
Essential.
and and let's not downplay this. Squid and Stoner and Razor Edge. They played very well last night. Squid is Squid. He is a solid player, and he came up with 2 goals in the loss last night. Both of the both of the goals for San Jose. They've got a good team, and they will be there, and they could very well take this division as anybody else in the Western Pacific. But
And
I like what
the
we're
other
seeing
thing
from
too,
Stockton.
I just wanna say real quick is, guys, I have a horse in this race this year too. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So there's nothing in it for me to blow Stockton. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there's no extra benefit here. It's but I call it like I see it, and they're gonna be a problem. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's where I was. I was just gonna be done with this, and hopefully we can move on to
Yeah,
a couple of other teams. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Cleveland and the Monsters.
we knew that was coming.
Just ahead of the Iowa Wild. Well, look, I have to. I mean, people. I've found that people love that I talk about Cleveland a lot, so I'm going to keep on doing that. And look, they got something to prove. I think Big Freeze and Siege and T-Ball want same guys who were there last season want to come back and show that that they can pick a team and they can take them all the way to the finals. And so, I think if there's going to be somebody out of the Western Central other than Manitoba, God forbid if I don't mention them, Cleveland would be a team who is going to be a tough one to face, and they've got something to prove. And I think so far, whoops, hold on there. So far, I think they are doing that, and they're showing to be a solid team once again.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted by the fact that you just farted on the mic, but yeah, no,
Everybody saw me
I
slam
agree.
on the headset there because I have a little bit of a
Yeah,
short
yeah,
here.
yeah. No,
Sorry.
I agree. I agree with your farts. But no, I do agree that the Monsters are going to be a good team, and they'll be a good second or third place, a very strong second or third place, and I think that they're not gonna roll over and die, and they're gonna be a problem for anyone in that division. You guys catch all these little. I'm sure
Yes.
they're not even subtle anymore.
No,
They're just
there's nothing you do
they're
that's,
pretty
dude.
blatant. Yeah, there's
There is
nothing subtle
nothing you
anymore.
do that's subtle. I think we know that by now. Um, and we've talked about Toronto and Syracuse and Binghamton, Utica. I think Utica is a team that again has a good squad. Have had some nice wins this season. They beat the Senators on Tuesday 3-1. But then what happens is they drop a game to maybe a team like Providence that they should win. So if they can put it together on a constant basis and win the games they're supposed to win and then beat some of the better teams, I think they can be just as powerful in this division as anybody else. I think G Pig and Joe Poe are doing a hell of a job on management again, and they've got a good squad together. Crazy cashed. I call so what back in net again. Good solid goaltender Dirk Nowitzki back on defense here in the AHL. Some veterans that have proven themselves that can play this game. Trouble Kid's another one. If they stay on target, they keep playing games. Nothing happens to these guys. They don't get banned. Then I think this team will be right there for it. I like Utica in this division, and I would not be surprised to see them move up further. But the problem is Toronto, Syracuse, Binghamton, really tough teams. But I'm keeping an eye on Utica. I think they could be a surprise.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that it's so early to be saying things like this, so it's kind of crazy. Like I can't believe I would even say it, but I feel like the top four in that division are starting to like really solidify themselves, and I think the top four there are maybe gonna end up being your top four once we do finally get to that point. Again, though, it's like super early, and the fact that I would even say something like that is absolutely ridiculous. But it seems like that four will could potentially hold. And yeah, Utica's got a good team. They're ran by good people, and they know what they're doing. They've put together a solid team, and if they get in, they have a shot. I think anyone in that division has a shot.
Yeah, I'm gonna be rooting on the Crunch again this season. I think they got a great squad once again this season. Um, those top 3 teams with the Crunch, the Sens, and the Marlies, I think are going to battle it out for the top. I think in the end, but I think either it's going to come down to the Crunch and the Marlies, with both teams just having some great talent on each roster there. So we also, I guess, we kind of forgot to mention some, some of these teams how they did this week. I want to really quickly go over that.
Real quick, before you bounce into that, can someone please explain to me? And I mean, draw pictures if you can. Pictures help. Diagrams, things like that. How did Freak end up on the Syracuse Crunch? Can someone please explain this to me again? Pictures help, and any sort of explanations that you can offer are definitely invited here. But how did that happen?
You're talking about that A1 Freak guy that's on the
Yeah.
NHL roster.
Yeah. What happened? How did that take place?
Glaring site glitch that still hasn't gotten fixed. Is that still there?
Is that what happened?
That's a cycle. So he's not actually on the team?
No, he's not even actually active. Apparently, the guy doesn't even own a PlayStation. He was borrowing it from somebody who used to live at his place who no longer does, and that's the story.
So that's a mistake.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah, it's a lot more
Jesus
elaborate than that.
God
but yeah,
Almighty.
it's no one don't bother using A1, whoever has him on your TC there, unless you want to go buy him a PlayStation. But yeah, maybe send him some Bitcoin and do that.
I do
I'm sorry.
No, and you mentioned Syracuse. As you look at the standings and the record, they are on a 7-game win streak, and DC Lumpy in net has been playing well of late. He, again, another veteran in this league who may have fallen a little bit off the radar in season 4, but he is back, and he's one of my favorite goaltenders in this league. I like the style that he plays. He's pretty reserved. He makes measured movements, and I think as a goaltender, I keep forgetting that from time to time, and I have to realize that, you can anticipate all you want, but you can't be diving all over the ice. And I like Lumpy's style, and he has played very well for them so far, 6-1-1 in 8 games for them. So when you get a veteran like him who is on target so far this season on a tough Syracuse team, that's going to mean an awful lot to these guys, and he's the kind of guy who can take you all the way into the playoffs and beyond. And I think this team overall, like you said, would not surprise me at all, Dead Soul, if they are there in the end fighting for the Eastern North. I want to hit on the Eastern Atlantic very quickly before we talk about anything else, and that's the.
I'm sorry. I'm kind of on social duty right now. I'm paying very close attention to the chat box here on YouTube, and apparently, Crass project staff is saying that Freak will be playing. So.
Who is that? First of all, I don't
know. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but
I have it on good authority that I heard the story directly from. Well, I didn't hear it directly from them, but I heard it from the manager chat, who heard it from the other guy. So I guess I heard it pretty indirectly through several different sources. But really, it sounds like either something's up and he's just totally effing around with everybody and making things difficult for the team that he's on and wants to be traded to another team. Who knows what the story is with that? I mean,
which God knows
be
why.
The first time. Yeah, but ultimately, no. From what I understand, the guy just simply doesn't own a PlayStation. It's actually kind of a funny story about it, and probably shouldn't get into all of it. But yeah, I don't think he's playing unless he goes out and buys that PlayStation. So.
I just, again, briefly for the Eastern Atlantic, just one quick question. Is this a repeat of season 4? Does Hershey have any competition in this division?
No.
Well, first of all, I just want to, as someone said before, that Bridgeport is coming, is what they said in the chat box, and I just want to tell you that Bridgeport is not coming. You can wait for Bridgeport if you'd like, but they're not coming at all. In fact, they're probably going. They can go to the shopping market, the supermarket with my list and get me my groceries, because as far as this league is concerned, they're not coming. So, just not going to happen. Sorry.
Yeah, it's unless something's happening with some of these teams in this division, Providence has played fairly well, but look at how many goals they've given up. I mean, it's you're gonna have a hard time doing anything in this league if you're giving up well, obviously through 27 games, 110 goals. That's that's what, well over or close to 4 goals a game. That's awfully hard to win if you're constantly giving that up every game. So they're on a 3-game win streak so far, but they're 12, 11, and 2, and still 8 points back of Hershey. And the Bears again have a team that is now solidifying. That's a Bob Swagger team. May do okay early on, but he doesn't make a lot of moves. They solidify. He knows what he wants to do with these guys after a couple of weeks, and then it's just a machine running. And I think Hershey's going to do that again.
Yeah, and being in that division, I mean, I don't really, I don't know. I mean, we can make this interesting and hype it up a little bit. I'm totally down with that, but I don't know. Maybe the Bruins. Probably not. I don't know. I have no idea. No, I don't see anybody else. I'm sorry. Bridgeport. No. I don't know.
Well, I think that's I think at this point that's a dead issue. I think Hershey comes out of that division no matter what. Yeah, it's going to take a lot to knock them out of that division, and I just don't see it happening.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking. I'm looking for a storyline and for a team that could maybe make a. I mean, maybe Bridgeport couldn't. I don't know.
Well,
I don't
you know what?
think
In a 7-game series, again, talent and management-wise, the only thing that stopped Bob last season was just a stacked roster in Stockton, and quite honestly, a management squad that was probably just as good or close to as good as what Bob was able to do with the Bears. And when you have all that, it is incredibly tough to match up with them. And Bob did his best, but it just didn't work out in the finals. But all the way through that, you could have made a case for the Crunch knocking off the Bears or any other team, that they face. So, but the Bears took care of Syracuse pretty handily in 5 games, and I just think with that management, and he's got some good talent again on this team, and he's got Moose in net. I don't see anybody beating them in a 7-game series coming out of that division.
No, and I mean, you take Hershey and you put them in any other division. You put them in the Central, you put them in the East and North, you put them in the Pacific, and they're contending. You take on any of these other teams from the Eastern Atlantic and you put them in the other divisions, and I mean, I wouldn't let you park my car. It's no. I just don't see anyone who can maybe contend with Hershey. I think this is Hershey's division. I mean, barring some sort of monumental, unforeseen, catastrophic collapse, I just don't see any team in this division rival, whatever. I don't see any team giving Hershey a run for their money.
Okay.
No one's gonna claw their way up.
No one's gonna. I don't see any clawing or potato making or anything like that. So
there we go. Just quickly, just some players to talk about. Again, look, we saw Pasta yesterday. He is who he is. 6-3 on the season, 22 goals, 18 assists in 9 games. Again, user pick is number 7 in scoring in this division, and Ryan R., the third member of that line, number 19 in scoring, all doing well. One of the guys that I've seen, I think he might have been on a TC roster in Hershey one season when I was there, was Who's Duke, and he is with Grand Rapids. He's 6-2 on the season, 14 goals, 19 assists at the right wing. A guy that obviously, from what we saw, had talent and really getting a good opportunity to play on a good team, on a good line, and is producing really well this season. A lot of the guys that we've seen before towards the top of the list for days, Obey the Sandman, Sakic, Squid, again, guys that we kind of expect to be there. One of your guys who I think we certainly saw was a good player, but is right now in the top 10 at number 10 in scoring is Timmy Z. And if you want to, maybe talk a little bit about his game and what he does well at the center position.
Timmy Z is an absolute beast. He is relentless on the puck. He plays an NHL style of game. Sees the ice well. He is not afraid to take the puck to the net. And he can dish the puck as well as put it in himself. And he is an absolute. He is a super high quality player. He's an absolute beast, and definitely elite status. And definitely a gift to me as a manager having him on my team right now.
And in the top 25 in scoring, Sessman, another guy from your team, 5-1-2, 13 goals, 16 assists. So we're getting a lot of good production from a lot of players. Obviously, top 25 are all forwards at this point. But as we mentioned, Squid, number 5, but also on that Barracuda team, Razor Edge is number 15 in the top 25 rankings as well. So again, I like to talk about goaltending and defense, but these guys are putting up numbers, and they're getting their team some good offense and getting them a lot of wins. And this is for the most part, this is a reflection of a lot of teams that are doing well. You see guys from the Marlies up there as well, Paulie, Chunks, and Apparition, who are doing well for that team. And again, a lot of names that we've seen, some that we haven't just yet, and we'll dive a little deeper into it once we have a few more games under our belt and we get to see some of these guys perform more consistently week after week. Hopefully, we'll have more to talk about some of these players that maybe we haven't talked about much at all in the past season or two, and give you a little bit more insight on them, and maybe even get a chance to talk to them live on the show. Any other players you guys want to talk about that?
Well, you
surprising
mentioned a player that I was definitely looking at as a one of the top players in the league, and he is. I don't know if you guys have players of the week for yourselves. If not, this would by default make him the show's player of the week. But Obey the Sandman on the Grand Rapid Griffins. He is in 9 games he's 7-1-1 with 34 points, 20 goals, 14 assists, and a plus 14. In this past week, he is my player of the week. He went 2-0-1, putting up 11 points and 6 goals, 5 assists. And he was also a +6 this past week. So he is my player of the week. And he's definitely going to be a problem for any teams that go against him. He's an exceptional player, and he's the real deal. And I don't plan on I don't expect him to fade anytime soon. But that being said, I don't know what you guys got.
I didn't single out any particular player for the week myself. I did actually kind of just go over some of the goalies because I know Vezina or however you want to say his name made a post earlier in the week about some shout outs for the goalies and getting some love as well. Just for
Vizina?
players.
Really? Vizina? Did you really say Vizina?
What? Did I? I don't know.
Oh
Vezina.
boy! Oh
Vezina.
boy!
Jesus Christ!
Now you got
Okay.
vibes
Vizina.
telling you how to pronounce something. That's not good.
Vizina. Vizina.
Vezina.
Sounds like it could be like
Vizina.
a girly alcoholic beverage or something.
Well, I'm just saying it in all the different languages people choose to speak it. So Vezina, there you go. Okay.
There you
Vezina.
go.
So Vezina for the Sens. He's again. This is no particular order for any of this. I just kind of took the stats from off the site there. But yeah, let's give the goalies some love because there's a few of them that are actually doing pretty exceptional for their teams, and Vezina is one of them with 12 wins, 12 wins, 1 loss, 23 goals against on 163 shots, 85.9% save percentage, 1.73 goals against average with 2 shutouts. So that's he's doing pretty excellent over there for the Sens. Obviously, the next one I'll go to real quickly is the Headhunter on the Sound Tigers. He's 10-5, 40 goals against, 271 shots, 85.2% save percentage, 2.53 goals against with 1 shutout. Then we got It's a Watermelon with the Marlies, 11-0, 18 goals against, 120 shots, 85% save percentage, 1.61 goals against average, and 2 shutouts. So all those, goalies probably among the top right now in the league. I know there's many others out there. I'm sure you guys will all get your chance to shine through the weeks. But I have a couple more real quick to bring up, and that's the Monsters Maximus with 11 wins, 2 losses, 33 goals against, 188 shots, 82.4% save percentage, and 2.46 goals against average with 1 shutout. Then we've got from the Barracuda. His name is interesting. Not really sure how you're supposed to say it. It's probably a few different ways you could say it. Was it New OK Sid or
Yeah.
New OK Kid, or I don't know. Maybe New Ewok Sid. I have no idea. Or any Ewoks.
I don't know, but whatever it is, you're wrong. But go ahead.
I'm wrong either way, however you say your name. So 12 wins, 4 losses, 45 goals against, 236 shots, 80.9% save percentage, 2.62 goals against average with 1 shutout. And last but not least for the Wild is Rick Stoneman, 10-1, and what has he got here? 28 goals against, 156 shots, 82.1% save percentage, and 2.49 goals against average. So those are the goalies that to me were standing out and amongst the top, especially with their save percentages. All of them among the top right now in the league. I'm sure some of those will dip down, some of them will not. But congrats to all you guys going out there, helping your team, doing one of the most annoying jobs in this game, especially for the way that it's programmed. So hats off to each one and every one of you guys.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a lot of goaltenders that perform well. There were some others that that I had been looking at as well, and one of the guys who's had a tough season. Just looking at the other direction, one of the guys who's had a tough season so far, Tyler Loki over in Lehigh Valley. But despite the fact that his record is not the best, he's still putting up good numbers that suggest that he is playing fairly well. It just just not getting the wins to support it. And he's an interesting case. We can maybe talk more about him next week. But he is a guy who, the funny thing is he's had the most shots on goal against him in 18 games, 330 shots, 7-11 on the season. But he 82.1 save percentage, 3.09 goals against, has a shutout. And again, you certainly, Dead Soul, are familiar with Tyler. A great player. The Phantoms are a pretty good team, but haven't quite shown enough just yet. And you wonder if at some point Tyler gets moved in a package somewhere along the way. But we've got some goaltenders like that have put up some decent numbers, but just haven't seen it on the win side of the ledger. So it'll be curious to see what he does, and if he stays with Lehigh Valley, or do they take a commodity like that and try and get a few players back to fill in some spots in their team.
He won't be going anywhere because he's actually
an
AGM.
AGM. Yeah, he's AGM.
No contract.
Is he really? Okay, I didn't even realize that. Well,
so yeah, Magic 8 Ball says he'll be staying in Lehigh.
I didn't even
nobody
realize
can
that.
be wrong about that unless he quits, of course.
Right. But it's
but once again, I'm right.
It's interesting though. It's that makes it even more difficult that he's in it for the long haul and has to do what he needs to help his team out. But that's tough when you don't see a lot of trades like that though, and we've seen a lot of that. I think we've even talked about that in the management chat on Discord. There's a lot of trading of, well, I'm putting my garbage pail out. How about we trade garbage pails? And you don't get a lot of opportunities to be able to take a player who's doing well on your team and maybe put them up on the block to say, let's get a bunch of players back that can help out. You may see it once in a while, but you really don't. I mean, you see a lot of guys trying to get rid of their problem for your problem, and unfortunately, Tyler can't do any more than manage to help his team out. And I'm going to try and take a look and see if we see more opportunities like that in the league, where maybe a trade of one player could benefit a team overall if they can get enough back to fill some of the holes on that squad. And I just don't know if we're going to see enough managers who are willing to do that.
Yeah,
It's true. I mean, there's a lot of with the trades, it's a lot of just swapping bodily fluids. I mean, you guys might as well have sex with one another. It's trading a shit sandwich for a urine smoothie.
Don't know if
I
I was
mean,
saying that
it's
exactly,
just
but
it's just changing, switching chairs, like you say all the time. You know what I mean? And you're right about that. It's switching chairs on the deck of the Titanic is what it is.
well, those kind of trades are more rare than vibes being wrong or correctly saying words. But yeah, those don't happen very often.
all right. We've gone almost 2 hours. Holy shit.
You gotta be kidding me. Really? We've been here for 2 hours?
Close
Oh
to
my
it. We're
God.
getting there. I know I was tired before we did the show, and I'm sure people are tired of listening to us. So, with the actually, there's still
Sid is going down for
wow,
his
there's still
nap.
people watching. I'm
I should have
amazed.
just done this show in the car. I could have just done this.
There's still a lot of people. No, there's a lot of people.
Shocked. Well, we're gonna.
They're into it too. They want to keep listening, but
Well,
They
there's-
want to hear you say potato one more time.
potato.
There you go.
Fuck is so fascinating about me saying potato?
This is see, you can't help yourself here, Dead Soul. There's one thing you have to understand about people from New York. They until they ever move out, they don't realize
That's
how
how wrong they are.
odd they are to the rest of the country and other countries. And Vibes is one of those guys, I think, who doesn't quite.
I have no idea what these people are talking about.
I know.
Guys are
I know
nuts.
you don't. All right. Any final
Bunch of fucking
thoughts?
sack of potatoes.
Any final thoughts on
Sid,
what we've
it's
been
time to go
babbling
down for your
around?
nap, huh? You going for your nap?
Oh
Got a
God,
little sippy cup?
I'm
Nap
so
time?
tired. I had a nap, but now I'm gonna have to go right back to bed. I'm exhausted. That 9 holes of
Oh.
golf yesterday wore me out. This is fucking sad. It really is. Getting too old and too fat to do anything. It's bad. Bad, bad, bad. All right. Any final thoughts? I know we had a bunch of stuff we never got to today, but any final thoughts? I'll tell you what, Vibes. I got a question for you that you can finish up at.
Sure.
Are we truly at week 3 that really tells you what's going to happen the rest of the way? Do you honestly feel that way? Let me put it that way.
No. Season doesn't start until week 4, right?
Okay, that's what you normally say, right? That's
That's your saying now. Week 4.
Well, no, I think you were saying. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. See, I'm actually confused, and I'm not sure.
Did you just give me the hand? Is that what just happened? Did Tim just give me the hand?
No, I didn't give you a hand. What? No, you were saying that you felt after 3 weeks we would start seeing teams perform the way that we could expect them to perform the whole season. Correct? Yes? No?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm saying we need one more week under our belts before we really get to see that.
Right. I know. But you're wrong.
I'm wrong.
But go ahead.
So you still
Sure.
feel that way after 3 weeks? You still feel that way from what you're seeing so far?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it.
So there's no room for you possibly to say maybe I was a little bit wrong on this.
Absolutely not.
Why did I think there was any chance of you changing your mind whatsoever?
I don't know. I don't know where you come up with this stuff from. Why would you think that? That's ridiculous.
Well, let me ask Dead Soul. Do you think Vibes is right? Do you think we have enough under our belts now to figure out where this is going?
What does it matter what Dead Soul thinks?
Oh, shit. Well, first of
Yeah,
all,
I
he's your
don't care.
GM smart ass.
No,
He's your owner.
I think he's got a pretty good little idea of the time frame for.
Yeah, it's a little
what
idea, of
teams up.
course.
Yeah, just a little idea of it. Just small potatoes.
Yeah, small potatoes.
No, I'm just kidding. Of course we care what Dead Soul says. It's you we don't care about.
Yeah,
Because you are right. He is my owner, after all.
yeah. It took you a few minutes to figure that out.
I mean, I personally love Dead Soul, like, so much, like, wholeheartedly. My favorite person in the whole world.
Wow. What
We
is
all
he
know
actually
it's
running? What is he aiming for at this point? You got the job, dude.
He just doesn't want me to poach all his players. Be careful. It could happen at any time. Swoop in.
Oh, he
Do
doesn't.
that and I kill you.
He doesn't want to be another big freeze, is what you're telling him.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're done, right? We talked about players and teams, and we talked about enough players, so hopefully guys won't cry if they didn't hear their name.
Yeah, you're about ready for a nap, so let's go.
Yeah, I definitely think I am. We're ready to get out of here now. Vibes, Dead Soul. Good luck to you in week 4. More so for Dead Soul. Good luck on your trip, wherever the hell you're going.
Well, the Moose don't need luck, so
Canadians take a lot of vacations this time of the year. I don't know if you noticed that, Vibes. Everybody's away. Like their life is so difficult. All right, that's it.
Canadians.
That's it for this show. We're done. We're definitely done. Time to get out of here. Week 4 is upon us. And for Vibes and Dead Soul, T-Sib saying so long. We'll talk to you again next week.